They know more about American.
But we just came from Hanoi, and we found people in Hanoi extremely friendly and likes America.
Maybe they came here after liberation a lot, and they hear from the southerner.
Maybe.
What were you going to say?
Maybe they think that it's better to be friends with Americans. Just
Make friends with Americans.
No, it's hard to
Could you
hear.
repeat because it was so difficult to me what you said? It's what?
maybe it's better to be friends with Americans. Yes.
Do any of you in here have to serve in the Army? You have no requirement now in Vietnam to serve in the Army?
When we graduated from high school, we entered the university.
You automatically enter the university. How are you able to go to the university when some others aren't? What reason? Did you have to take a test?
Yes.
Does school cost you any money?
No.
No, not much. Just a little sum of money.
Something.
How many classes do you take every semester? Like we're talking in April.
Every week.
Huh?
Every week.
Every week.
How many classes do you have a week?
7 or 8 in different subjects.
And what are some of the other subjects you're taking?
Besides British literature, American literature, phonology, syntax, morphology.
Who's your favorite American writer?
Hemingway.
Next class, next time we will study American literature.
Who's your favorite American writer?
Favorite American writer.
You see,
Jack London.
Hemingway.
How about you?
I think Jack London.
Why do you like Hemingway?
I like the way of his writing.
No way.
You're very nice to visit with us. We thank you very much. We don't want to take up your class, but that was really great.
Did you like it?
Oh,
Did
yes.
you enjoy the way they responded?
Their English is excellent.
Oh, okay.
So you have to come to the United States and interpret Vietnamese for the Americans into English.
So I'm sure they have a brilliant future. They are they're not the lost generation at all. They have a future.
Now your mother is a politician, isn't she?
I think so.
Yeah. Have you ever been a politician?
I don't think so. I'm just a teacher, and I like teaching here.
She lived in the United States for a while. Have you ever lived there?
No, I haven't been able to go to the States because of there is no normalization of I was invited to go to the States several times, but I thought, well, I prefer to wait until we have the normalization so I can go, and help also to the process of normalization.
Who's your favorite American writer?
That's difficult to say.
Do you read American literature?
Yes, but I'm more specialized in British literature and British culture and society more because we teachers have, each person has his own specialty, and the class will go on at 3 with the teacher who is in charge of American literature. And if you have time, and you can come and talk to her, and you will see how she's conducting the class. Is she coming at 3?
Yes, at 3 o'clock.
And at 3 o'clock, she's doing American literature. Then she will talk to you about all the authors in half an hour.
In half an hour.
Thank you very much. We will let you go on. Appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Vietnam Revisited continues, C-SPAN's video journey from Hanoi to the Mekong Delta. We will explore the Amer-Asian Transit Center in Ho Chi Minh City. Joining us for a discussion will be William Fleming with the Office of Refugee Assistance at the State Department. Then it's on to Tu Do Obstetrics Hospital. Dr. Arnold Schechter, a leading researcher on Agent Orange, and the former Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Elmo Zumwalt, will discuss the Agent Orange issue. Then we will talk with Vietnam veteran Michael DePaulo. We spoke with him recently in Hanoi about his life and personal reflections following the Vietnam War. Later, we will be joined by Lee Bang, who runs the Americas Department at the Vietnamese Foreign Ministry. And again, if you would like to comment on our 4-part series Vietnam Revisited, contact our automatic response unit at this number, area code 301-718-0557.
You're watching Vietnam Revisited on C-SPAN. U.S. law determines children as Amerasians if they were born in Vietnam between January 1962 to January 1976 and fathered by an American. There are still some 20,000 Amerasians and families remaining in Vietnam. In a few minutes, we'll take you on a tour of the Amerasian Transit Center in Ho Chi Minh City. But first, a look at the faces of some of those children.
William Fleming, Deputy Director of the Office of Asian Refugee Assistance in the U.S. Department of State. When you see the Amerasian faces this far after the war, what should Americans think?
I think they should recall that this was a responsibility that we left behind along with other responsibilities, and that our efforts to interview them, to bring them to the United States, and to try to make a better life for them is a responsibility we have, because in a very real sense these are our children. It's a little late in the game, unfortunately. Some are, I guess the average age is about 20 or 21 now. Some have families of their own, but they want to come to the United States. They believe they can find a better future, and I think we have a responsibility, as long as they want to come, to try to do what we can to help them.
We're going to talk a lot about the Amerasians, and we're also going to show about 30 minutes of videotape and talk to people that were there during our visit to Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City. But before we do that, give us some of your own background. How did you get into this?
Going way back a bit, I first joined, before I joined the Department of State, I was with the Agency for International Development in 1971. And then from 1972 to 1974, I was with AID in Vietnam, in Hue, for 2 years.
Hue is in South Vietnam.
It's in South Vietnam, in the central part, up near the
We do have a map up here, so eventually our audience can see what part of Vietnam where Hue is located. And how long were you in Hue?
2 years. 2 years exactly.
What'd you do there?
I was what they called an area development advisor at that time. In fact, there was not a lot of development going on. It was more reporting on the situation, what's happening. It was 1 year before the ceasefire and 1 year after the ceasefire, so it was a transitional period, and it was not in any way traditional development work.
Ceasefire came when?
73. And then I was with AID. I left Vietnam in 74 and went to the Philippines and to Bangkok for the rest of the 80s. Then I resigned from AID and joined the State Department in 1980 and was assigned to Paris first, then Nairobi, and in 1985 to Bangkok to work with the Orderly Departure Program.
What's the Orderly Departure Program?
The Orderly Departure Program was created as a result of a memorandum of understanding in 1979 with the UNHCR and resettlement countries to try to find a legal and safe, orderly means for people to leave Vietnam. This was at the time there were large numbers of boat escapes. People were dying on the high seas, so it was decided it was necessary to do something to try to make a legal and orderly way for people to depart in safety.
You said UNHCR. What's that?
The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. It began under their auspices. And there were some departures from Vietnam in the early 1980s that we had, there were people interviewing in there, not U.S. government officers. It wasn't until 1987 that U.S. government officers were permitted to go to Vietnam, stay in for significant periods of time, do the interviews, and decide on the spot about the eligibility of people for to leave under the orderly departure program.
I remember before we went to Vietnam, we were told that the highest ranking official, American official, that lives in Vietnam today is the guy that runs the orderly departure program. Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate. And no one from the Department of State lives permanently. We do not have a permanent office there. No one lives there. They live there during, we have team leaders among our consuls in Bangkok who go in and live there for 2 weeks at a time. But we do not have a permanent presence. In essence, we're there for the 2-week period, then we have a new team come in for another 2 weeks. So we're there essentially full-time, but it's not a permanent kind of office like they have the POW-MIA office in Hanoi. It's not like that.
When did you come back to the United States, and where do you work now specifically?
I came back to the United States last summer after 6 years in Bangkok, going in and out of Vietnam dozens and dozens of times. The first 4 years of those 6, I was an interviewing consular officer, and I went in more often. And in the last 2 years, I was the director of the program, so I spent more time in Bangkok and went in for technical talks and such. I came back last summer and joined the Bureau for Refugee Affairs.
In a couple minutes, we're going to show about a 32-minute vignette, we call them, of our video at the Amerasian Center. And there's some misinformation I know that you'll see when you listen to it, and we can clear it up when it's over, because we were talking to a gentleman that didn't speak perfect English, and that's no fault of his, but he was trying to answer the questions, and I want to make sure our audience knows that we'll come back to William Fleming after this videotape so that we can clear up some of the possible wrong answers. How many Amerasians? What is an Amerasian?
An Amerasian is the child of an American father and a Vietnamese woman. Born during the war, and they're referred to as Amerasians. At times we have other mixtures that come, Philippine Vietnamese, Korean Vietnamese, and unfortunately they're not eligible for the Amerasian program.
How many are there that we know of?
Well, it's still hard to say with any clarity and certainty. Thus far, about 75,000 Amerasians and family members have come to the United States. We originally thought there might be about 30,000 Amerasians. So we expect there may be as many as 20,000 or so more, but it's hard to make any definitive estimate. But we expect to continue interviewing this year and as much as next year as necessary to try to get to all the Amerasians. And in the ensuing years, if Amerasians still become aware of the program, and heretofore perhaps they were not, we'll be willing to interview them also.
This center that we're going to show was built by whom?
It was built by the Vietnamese. It was a result of an agreement between the United States government and the Vietnamese government. It was financed by the United States. It was constructed during 1989 and was officially opened in January 1990.
How much did it cost?
It cost approximately $500,000.
So far, so good on this tape, because that's what the gentleman said.
Oh, all right, that's
1990. Mm-hmm. Had we done anything for the Amerasians before this center was built?
Not in Vietnam. We had interviewed them in Vietnam, and when they came to the United States, of course, we provided the benefits for them under the Refugee Act. But in Vietnam itself, no. It took some period of time to get to the point where we could actually construct a center. We began interviewing in 1987, and the center did not open until January 90, so you can see there was a bit of a lapse there.
You're going to see some obvious American-looking faces, yes, black and white and all different kinds, but you're also going to see little ones on hips, carried around by mothers. What